Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of ChatArgos. My name is Patrick Tan, General Counsel for ChainArgos, and with me, as usual, every week is our CEO and Chief Data Scientist, Jonathan Reiter. Thanks for tuning in. As you can imagine, this is a slightly delayed telecast, and that's because we were traveling last week, and not intentionally, but there's a whole bunch of shooting going on both our trips out to Europe and back from Europe. And of course,
missiles, not load shooting.
And also, there was that the biblical floods in Dubai, so that caused a whole bunch of delays, and therefore we were not able to record this episode. But that doesn't mean that we don't have good stuff for you this week. So this week you get a double bill, and of course we're all just freshly back from the Digital Innovation Summit Bucharest. We're going to have a special episode dedicated exactly and precisely just for that. We'll tell you all the things that we downloaded from Bucharest, which, if you do not know, is the capital of Romania. So, I mean, it's possible you may not know.
Okay, that's fine.
So, this week's episode, we're going to talk about the U.S. Stablecoin Bill. John's got all the latest on that, so I'm going to be asking him the questions. Railgun. No, it's nothing to do with the flight, but it's another project where we go through a little bit of the data. Zkasino. Am I saying that correctly? I don't know. It's basically was meant to be some kind of zero knowledge proof casino.
I don't know about the first part. It might have just been intimated.
It's intimated. I mean, people can say anything that they like. Okay. It's the doing that matters. So they intimated that it's going to be some kind of zero knowledge proof casino, which sounds sexy. And as we know, with all sexy projects, there's got to be something behind the scenes. So people were complaining about how this project, which I think it claimed to have raised 350 million or something like that.
35 million.
35 million.
Oh, it did. We'll see the.
Yeah, but they. I think if you see some of the tweets, it said something like a 350 million.
Oh, was there some I'm talking about the money that was stolen.
Yeah. So like some
kind of equity raise might have also been stolen.
Some kind of like 350 million valuation, Series A, something like that. Obviously the money was, spoiler alert, stolen.
Well, the staked money or whatever was stolen.
So let's just see how that was done. We've I think we've seen this one before, but our viewers haven't. So we'll run through the data on that. But John, tell me a little bit more about this stablecoin bill, because I only read it in passing, and I'm not super familiar.
This came out a week and a half ago, I think. So I read this last week. It's quite long, but frankly, a lot of it is boilerplate that's irrelevant to 99% of people. So I think this was commented on by a few law regulatory types. A lot of it is about copying the existing resolution insolvency proceedings type stuff from financial institutions to stablecoin thing. So yeah, really 2/3, 3/4, whatever of the content you can skim over. It doesn't really matter. It's just resolving it the way you would resolve a exploded financial institution, which the U.S. now has pretty elaborate procedures for that have evolved over a long time, and mostly come out of 2008, but also come out of 100 years ago. So I think the short version here is that they are proposing to introduce a regime for stablecoin issuers that would exempt them from deposit insurance, but subject them to something like bank-style resolution procedures run by similar people. And then there's a number of procedures around regulations in size and how much surveillance for different sizes and the rest of it, and a couple of sort of incidental provisions. So there's a most but not total ban on algorithmic stablecoins being covered.
Okay.
I was kind of disappointed that it will accept applications for algorithmic stablecoin procedures, even though they say that that's only for testing or proof of concept. Or
anybody can accept an application.
Well, no, I mean, you can't apply for whatever the voting registration unless you're a given age. That's there are some times where they just say only certain things are acceptable, and they could have simply said no, as opposed to we'll allow exceptions if somebody makes a really good case.
I mean, I think I'll give them a mulligan on that one. I mean, it's like, okay, we'll accept this application. Maybe we'll read it, maybe we won't.
Well, I mean, then they're subjected to political pressure on things. It gives people an opportunity to complain they're being treated unfairly. And as we'll see in a second, there is a little bit of freedom provided in the way the financial engineering works here. Not a lot, but more than zero, that you could probably fit just about any rational. I think giving people the chance to claim they're being treated unfairly is a bad idea here, because the history of actors in that space is that 100% of them are bad actors. I mean, Athena is a situation where they're an algorithmic stablecoin, but they're not pretending that they're risk-free, and them submitting an application would either be totally in conflict with their public statements, which is embarrassing for everybody, or would I guess just be a joke, they'd get reprimanded for even submitting it. So fair enough. I don't think that's a problem. I mean people who are presenting their algorithm as truly reliable in the limit. So to that point, there are restrictions around the types of holdings. It essentially says they can only hold short-term T-bills, which is okay-ish. I will note that because there are no meaningful capital requirements, if you hold a whole bunch of T-bills with any duration at all, and there's an aggressive hiking cycle, you can end up not being sufficiently backed, and the government in this case is promising to bail out said institutions. Given the United States has had a money market fund fail for these reasons in the early 80s, and the rules exist because this is a bad idea, I think it's very concerning to allow that loophole that again has blown up before on a money market fund in the United States in modern times. In the late 70s, early 80s aggressive hiking cycle, this blew up a fund. Name escapes me now, but I think it's 81 or 82. But this is a well-known case whose name I'm sorry I don't remember. We can maybe put in the comments. If you buy a whole bunch of 3-month debt and they hike rates by 100 basis points and you don't have a cushion, it's going to drop in value. Even if it's 1 week debt, it'll still drop in value a little bit. So I find that concerning. They also allow the use of repos and reverse repos for liquidity management, which is kind of necessary because otherwise you're just going to, since you don't allow bank deposit accounts, I don't know what you're going to do other than constantly buying and selling notes. So fair enough. They allow bank deposits, but only up to the insured amount. So $250K of wiggle room is not a tremendous amount, so you'd have to have some kind of derivatives, and then they allow ancillary activities in the derivatives market to facilitate, financing activities for the fund. That's the part where you could get into some trouble. This is not a funding market derivatives podcast, but I will say that already I have some ideas about how you can game this within the rules as written, gain some leverage, and take some profits out of the fund that the government will have to bail you out on. I haven't even tried very hard, and I'm sure if people try to run this for a while, that will happen 100% of the time. Again, these are not huge amounts. You're not going to take 50% of the money out.
Yeah.
But interest rates are volatile, and there are ways in which you can play that a bit. There are restrictions even on the length of the collateral that they can accept on reverse repo transactions. Those are capped at 1 year. So this is where you give somebody cash, and you deposit cash, and they post bonds back to you. That's better because the value of those bonds can't change too much because they're short term, whatever. But your counterparties tend to be large banks. So this feels like it was not gamed out from kind of the opposition perspective at all. I think Hillary Allen made a comment that she interpreted this as just as an attempt by Circle and Tether to sort of, Circle in particular, to just cement their current position. They got a free government bailout already, and this would essentially have the government guarantee to bail them out going forward, which is interesting. They now put their money at Boney. I guess they'd go to Boney and say, please put all the cash in only use the BlackRock fund. And then if that fund happens to fall below par, they just get a free government bailout, which is concerning. Banks have to pay. Deposit insurance fees aren't super high, but they're not zero.
They're not zero.
I don't understand why they should be exempted from that regime. So, separate from the financial part, it says that these things are all still treated as financial institutions for legal purposes and subject to Bank Secrecy Act and all the other stuff. So, I guess regulations are to be issued regarding how all that compliancy type stuff is supposed to work. So this punts all the hard questions about stablecoin ownership history, source of funds, off to those regulations. And I would expect if this actually is debated, I don't know if it's going to be debated meaningfully in Congress, questions around how those rules are going to work and maybe how the government might want to, the law maybe should contain some restrictions on that at the beginning. Otherwise, if you look at this, sort of you step back for a second, all this does is it provides free deposit insurance to the existing providers, which is, I don't think anybody's in favor of just handing out free deposit insurance. That's bad. And then it opens up on two fronts possibilities for sort of lobbying for maybe slightly bad behavior and people complaining about being aggrieved for reasons that, again, there's a history of bad behavior in, which is how the compliance stuff is actually supposed to work. This bill does not address those details at all. And wiggle room around what are ancillary derivative activities and what kinds of algo stablecoins and stuff in that space might be allowed. I personally would have preferred if this was much more black and white. We're authorizing a specific activity with specific rules, high walls around it, and if someone wants to do something else, let's talk about it, because we're not here. What you're doing is you're providing a government subsidy and a government-run procedure to bail out and manage exploded things.
Yeah.
If the deposit insurance isn't enough, the government eats the loss and sorts out how to finance it later. That's how deposit insurance resolution regimes work for financial institutions. If you're going to make that promise, you don't owe people the freedom to innovate inside that box.
Yeah.
Right? You're not banning the activities outright externally, but you should not be providing the support in an environment where people can advocate for bad things. You want to run a shadow bank, you don't get government support, and you can have a lot more freedom.
Yeah.
No one's preventing you from doing that. No one's declaring all kinds of structured finance vehicles illegal. They're just saying you don't get bank deposit insurance, and if they go under, you're on the hook for it in ways that you wouldn't be if it was a bank. So I actually think that this would be a much better effort and much more intellectually honest effort, frankly, if they would have much, much higher walls and not be friendly to innovation within the government-subsidized resolution regime, and you expand that perimeter as you get comfortable with it. This applies on the regulation front, this applies on the derivative activities front, and the rest of it. Allowing people to go to the Fed and ask for an exemption if they have a specific need afterwards probably makes more sense than saying, you do what you think is appropriate and come back to us with a legal opinion, because again, 20 years of interest rate derivative structuring experience, right? There's all kinds of stuff you can come up with here. I will say that none of the Twitter commentary I've read on this from the experts, such as it is, addresses that at all. There seems to be no awareness that there are gaping holes for people who have experience.
Okay, I had a stupid question. And this is a simple, stupid question. Let's say now, for instance, a depositor in a bank, it's only the first 250,000 that enjoys FDIC.
That's right.
Okay. So does the bill say that any amount, like it's
No. So they're not allowed to have deposit holdings in excess of the deposit insurance limit.
Okay, so
I believe they can purchase additional. There was a phrase in there that I did not completely understand that I took to mean like the covered deposit amount, that you can get extra deposit insurance.
Okay, so let's say, for instance, and each amount that you so-called deposit with the stablecoin issuer, that should be personal to you.
No. This stablecoin
sorry.
issue with bank holders.
Bank holders.
You get no insurance. No,
you get
no insurance.
So you as a stablecoin issue holder, then how do they track like the secondary usage, tertiary usage of the coin and stuff like that?
All of that is the stuff that's punted off to future regulations.
All right. Okay. So seems like a bad.
It's a short answer, right?
That
it is clearly punted off. The implementation of this will be deferred to the whatever.
Okay, that's an interesting way to approach this problem. Let's talk about Railgun. What exactly is that?
So this is a not new privacy tool that Vitalik Buterin apparently tweeted some positive stuff about and has been using a bit. It's kind of amusing because this is an old one. It's a mixer with kind of a little bit of a twist that, from my perspective, we were talking about this a few minutes ago, is a little bit too on the nose. So whatever. It's something like a mixer, but instead of focusing so much on using zero knowledge, it is various choices of types of mixing that go on. So they still have relayers. Exactly how the mixing works is irrelevant. They have the same problem that Tornado Cash and all other Ethereum system style mixers have, which is someone has to pay gas for the withdrawals. And if the depositor funds the gas for the withdrawals, the addresses are connected. So they have, again, people that are known as relayers who pay the gas for withdrawals, and you send them your withdrawal message off-chain, and then they convey the message out of their pool of gas, collect the fees, and send you your withdrawal. So in the Tornado Cash case, those are pretty unquestionably custodial money transmitters because this is admitted in the Tornado Cash blog that they're custodial money transmitters. They even tell you if you want to be a relayer, you should consider the risks of being a relayer, including that you would be accused in whatever jurisdiction you live in of being a custodial money transmitter without a license. So the way Railgun's organized, the messages that you're relaying are encrypted so you can't read them. And they claim that means that it's not custodial. Okay, that is, I suppose, an argument that one can make. This is a bit like a money changer that only deals with, identity documents in sealed envelopes or something.
Which you can't
like
read.
That. Yeah, which you can't read. Or, if you come in my office, turn the lights off first or I won't trade with you. So the security cameras don't work, whatever, because it's dark. that's what I mean by too on the nose. It's very, very clear. So I'm going to relay your messages using a private information channel, but I'm just going to make sure the messages you give me can't be decoded by me. So now I'm off the hook for the content of these messages. That's not my understanding of how the laws work most of the time. If that's the way this does work, and that is legal, all kinds of stuff is now okay, right? Because if I'm relaying messages I can't read for a fee, I can do all kinds of things, and apparently it's not my responsibility for putting these various people together.
Okay, so I had a stupid question. I mean, the simple way to understand this is who has, first of all, having custody and being able to read the message are independent legal concepts, such as it is. Doesn't matter. But let's really dumb this down.
Oh, that's interesting. So yeah, that's right. You can take custody of something that you can't understand.
Of course.
Okay.
The two are completely separate legal concepts. This is, so I'm just gonna dumb this down a lot more. Let's say now, for instance, I need to mail something. You guys remember in the times when you needed to mail stuff, and then you prepay for the mail by buying a stamp, stick it on the envelope, give it to the mailman. Mailman goes in his tight blue shorts, walks down the street with this little trolley thing. He's in custody of the mail. He's not supposed to read it because if he reads it, that's a federal offense.
Uh-huh.
And then he delivers it. But you would not argue that en route from the post office to your mailbox, he's not in custody of the mail. He is absolutely in custody of the mail.
That's interesting. So you could get, for example, insurance for the contents of something like this if it was lost. And okay, there will be examples where you're not allowed to read. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, you can imagine all kinds of things you can build easily if you're allowed to. Yeah.
So, if
actually, and then let's bring up data. Just
let's bring up some data.
Just got the right screen, yeah.
Because this is
the deployer for Railgun.
All the way to right, top right, and that should be good.
This is the deployer for Railgun. So we can see that, I mean, these addresses, this is a no KYC exchange, instant exchange, some other small transfers. This is financing the gas for the deployment, whatever activities for various parts of Railgun. So these are small numbers of transactions over a long period of time by a handful of people. So definitely this is run by a small number of individuals, at least operationally, right? Those people are, I mean, okay, I guess that's a thing you can do, right? The next bit here to look at, so these are just addresses internal to the system, so relay or forwarder stuff there. So you can see that the volumes that go through are pretty substantial, and stuff involves various other exchanges. So the protocol allows you to trade one token for another via another DeFi service. So that's why there's a collection of tokens here. These are real amounts over real periods of time, real amounts. You can see some stuff, scam link, whatever, large amounts of transactions occurring. And, you know, it's there's a lot of ENS folks on here, right? Big amounts flowing back and forth, changing tokens. But come back to this, you know, the deployment, this is a very discrete process. I don't know. I'm a little bit surprised. I'd also say, just brief note, some of the contracts are upgradable proxies owned by a single address. So it's not even in a bunch of immutable smart contracts. I mean, the relayers, right? It's not immutable smart contracts. I don't understand how anyone thinks this is okay.
It's people have commented sometimes we look tired on the show. It's not that we're tired. We're just tired of the same stupidity repeating itself sometimes.
I mean, if someone wants to say this is legal, I got lots of ideas.
if someone tells me that this is legal, it might be time for a pivot. So, okay, wait. Let's talk a little bit about Zkasino. Okay. This was I want to take a look at the Zkasino stuff.
So let's go back to the data again here. We got two data today. So Zkasino, this is the flows into, so, okay, Zkasino is some kind of gambling project, whatever. So they promised users that if they locked their ETH into a contract, that's the address that we have up here, that they would get some tokens, get some interest, whatever, get some payment for that, and they get their ETH back. So these are the payments in, and what we're trying to show here is only that an awful lot of people sent a meaningful amount of ETH here, right? This is dozens and dozens of people sending, you know, individually six-figure amounts of money, 30 ETH, 20 ETH, you know, it's a huge amount. There's a long tail, and it's all, what is this, March? I think there's some April up here somewhere. You know, so these are recent large amounts, an awful lot of ENS addresses associated with this, so, you know, people that presumably know what they're doing. I even saw the deployer of, and there we go, Phi protocol. So even governance delegate for a reasonably whatever DeFi protocol got taken by this. So what happened here is that they promised people they would do this, and then instead of returning the ETH, they said that they converted the ETH into their native token, paid on their native chain, and gave people tokens there at some price that they made up as a function of some valuation that they raised money at, whatever. And these ETH were transferred to a multi-sig where the code isn't public. So one imagines that multi-sig will be sent to a mixing service, perhaps Railgun, in the distant future. It's $33 million worth or so at the time of, add up the numbers on the screen there. Yeah, so I don't know what to tell you. The guy, one of the devs or project leaders, whatever, has been on Twitter publicly saying this is totally fine. They never really promised people they would give them ETH back just the same amount of value or whatever. Don't correct me on misphrasings of the way they've taken these people's money. I don't know. It's kind of amusing, I guess.
Well, I mean, I guess it's sad if because not a lot of people, but people did get taken, also because there were some marquee names who
Well, they paid people to promote the project. But
yep, exactly. That's what I want to highlight.
If you're going to believe something's good because people who were paid to promote it say it's good and you trust those people, that's a you problem and you need to learn your lesson.
Fair enough. And on that note,
if you tried to hold celebrities accountable for the activities of their sponsors, of pure sponsors, right? So if they do it, people have seen this. The joke about saying not legal advice, of course, is completely worthless, right? But if you make a TV advertisement or video, whatever advertisement, and it says paid for by whatever on it,
it's kind of on you.
It is no longer the person in that performance's problem if it turns out to be a scam. If you went to celebrities and said, we don't care if you disclose they've paid you to endorse this product, if they're a scam, you're still getting in trouble for it, you would never see celebrities endorsing products again. Maybe you think that's the right outcome, right? But that is not the way the world works in any country that I'm aware of right now at all. And I don't know that people even want to ban paid endorsements. I don't know.
This will probably reveal how old I am. Michael Jackson never actually drank Pepsi.
Okay, that's possible.
Yeah, he wasn't a fan.
Okay.
There you
go.
If
it turns out that both Brad Pitt and George Clooney don't drink espresso, then I guess we're all lost.
Nespresso.
Well, no, Brad Pitt's on the...
The DeLonghi one?
Yeah, the DeLonghi one. Yeah.
All right. Okay. And on that note...
Oh, by the way, I love the fact that DeLonghi got him just to do it. It's fantastic. It's a beautiful dual advertisement. Anyway.
On that note, thank you for tuning in. Thanks for the likes, comments, and subscriptions. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. That really helps the algo, helps us get these videos out there. Hopefully, some of the stuff that we cover can help to prevent, the next bout of indiscretion, I guess would be the kindest way to put this.
Or somebody can clarify how these things are legal, and then we can do that.
Yep. So we'll be doing a special episode that's just all about Bucharest. We're waiting for those videos to come in. You might have seen some of them already on some of our socials. Thanks for all the support and the kind messages that you guys have been sending in. Keep them coming. We appreciate that. And otherwise, we'll see you again this week as well, because we've got maybe a couple episodes that we're going to film this week. If you guys got anything interesting you want to talk to us about, just drop us a line, DM us, and otherwise, we'll see you towards the end of the week. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.